Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Eric Florup with C-TRAN, and we're here live to talk about a proposed temporary fare reduction for 2022. To start, I just want to thank you all for being here, whether you're watching live or catching the recording of this broadcast later. As always, we appreciate you taking the time to be informed, to be engaged, and ultimately to help make C-TRAN a better transit agency. So to set the table for this a little bit, for this fare proposal, everything we're covering today is also available on our website at c-tran.com. We also want to hear from you. That's why we're here. We've heard from quite a number of folks already. So if you have seen this proposal and you're watching this live, feel free to drop a question into the comments on this post. Go ahead and do that at any time during this presentation, and then we'll have time to get to people's questions a little bit later. But first, before we get to that, I want to go into a little more detail about what we're proposing and why we're proposing it. I'm going to bring in Julie Searing. She is C-TRAN's Director of Finance. Just a moment here as she comes on. Hello, Julie. Welcome.
Hi, Eric. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being here. So Julie, again, is our Director of Finance, who's going to go into more detail about kind of what this means for our riders, how this will impact you, and an overview of kind of the details. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Julie.
Thank you. So, in general, the basis for the proposed temporary fare reduction is pretty straightforward. In response to the agency's 2020 and 2021 sales tax collections actually exceeding our budget projections and C-TRAN's receipt of federal economic stimulus funding, the agency is recommending a temporary 12-month fare reduction that would decrease the local service fare from the current value of $1.80 to $1 and reduce the express service fare from the current value of $3.85 to $2.50. The regional fare, as well as all daily and monthly fare caps, would remain unchanged. With this proposal, there is no intent to have an impact on service projections. The focus of the proposal is really about easing the burden of transportation for those who continue to use C-TRAN and for those new or returning riders who would benefit from C-TRAN services in 2022. And that is pretty much it as far as the nuts and bolts of the proposal.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate the overview there. So I want to get into some comments and questions that we've gotten from our writers on this. As I mentioned, we've gotten quite a few already. I want to go through a few of those, and then we'll get into some questions that have come up. Earlier this week, Jenny says via Facebook, "Thank you. That helps someone like me on CVAN." You're welcome, Jenny. That's really good to hear. Again, as Julie mentioned, that's really kind of the motivation behind this, to really kind of give back to our riders and help folks who are maybe coming back to service in the next year or who are currently riding. Hawthorne says, "Brilliant and wise." David says, "Wow, way to go, C-TRAN." Briette says, "Well, thanks." Well, you're welcome, Briette. Thank you for the comment. Suzanne adds, "Would really be helpful to so many of the seniors and low income." Thank you for that feedback as well. That's really good to hear. So a few of the questions that have come up, I want to start with one. As you mentioned in your remarks, Julie, the regional fare would not change. Why isn't the regional fare changing as part of this temporary proposal?
That's a great question. And really, the proposed fare reduction is a C-TRAN initiative focused on giving back to our community. The regional fare is a product that C-TRAN actually participates in with both TriMet and Portland Streetcar. C-TRAN can't affect a change to those rates without also affecting those agencies, and that's why the reduction is really targeted to the fare instruments specific to the C-TRAN service.
Got it. And it looks like Sherilyn has just posted a question about the honored and youth citizen fare. Can you just go into detail how that's going to be affected by this proposal?
Sure. Again, the proposal is really it's about the cost per ride within the C-TRAN system. So it will impact the local express, C-van, and the honored youth discounts. So those all will see the uh, same reduction.
Correct. So the honored youth fares will be lowered kind of in proportion to what the adult fare is going to be doing.
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. Okay. Another question we got previously was from another writer who asks, how much of a financial impact is this to C-TRAN? And I'm wondering, Julie, if you can just go into a little more detail on where does C-TRAN's overall revenue come from and kind of where does this fit into that picture?
Sure. Well, we currently estimate that the financial impact to C-TRAN for the fare reduction is going to be probably a decrease in passenger fares of about $1 million. If you look at the recommended 2022 operating budget, fare revenue is about 1 to 2% of the overall revenue for the agency. The bulk of the operating revenue for 2022 is going to be coming from sales tax at about 70%, with operating grants at about 28 or 29%. And as I said earlier, it's really the growth in these two areas caused by the higher sales tax collections, as well as the federal economic stimulus funding that is helping us to be able to provide this opportunity.
Thank you. That makes sense. And then to kind of follow on that, as you mentioned, this is a temporary 12-month reduction. So one question that has come up obviously is what happens after 12 months?
Another great question. At this point, the plan would have the fares returning to their prior rates at the end of the 12-month period. However, there are a variety of factors that could influence what actually happens: the status of the pandemic, what the local economic environment looks like, and the general status of the agency's revenues. All of these are going to play their part in any future decision making around fare policy. So it really kind of depends on where we're at that point.
Right. Okay. And then another comment we got from Tony earlier says, I hope this could be permanent, but just knowing that it's proposed for all of 2022 is already amazing. Thank you. So the question kind of within that comment is, can C-TRAN make this reduction permanent? And what about the idea of going fare free? I know this is an issue that's come up for quite a few transit agencies, and just curious kind of how this fits into that as well.
Again, there are a variety of factors that would play into whether the agency continues with the reduced fare and or chooses to go fare free. Both of these options have much larger implications that the agency would have to navigate prior to being able to move forward. And so at this point, they're not part of the current proposal.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, I'll emphasize that we've heard that. For those of you who have sent those comments to us, we hear you. That's something that a lot of transit agencies have been kind of navigating. That's something that a lot of folks feel strongly about. So thank you for that feedback. As Julie
Thank you.
mentioned, that's not part of this proposal at this time, but that feedback that we hear from riders is certainly always valuable to making any future decisions on whether it be fare policy or service planning or anything. That's how we become a better system when we hear from our writers. So thank you as always for sharing that feedback. Sherilyn looks like she's added another question regarding the day pass. So this would be relating to the day cap and monthly cap as part of Hop Fast Pass. I know you mentioned it earlier, Julie, but
Mhm.
can you just kind of recap how this affects or doesn't affect the monthly and daily caps that are built into the existing Hop system?
So in reality, they're not going to affect the caps. The caps will remain at the levels they're currently at. What's going to happen is with the reduced cost per ride, uh, people paying will pay far less because it'll take them longer to get to that cap. So if you're right now, if you're a day pass user, I think it's about 3 rides a day that gets you to sort of that pass cap. At 3 rides, you're going to be paying $3 versus the current cap, which is higher. So you're going to see the discount in your regular ride, but it's not going to actually change where that cap is sitting.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you very much, Julie, for joining us this afternoon. Really appreciate you going into more detail about what's proposed and kind of how this all works. So thank you again.
For sure. Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Thank you. So again, just to wrap up, the details of this proposal that we've covered today are all available on our website at c-tran.com. If you missed the live version of this broadcast, you can also attend an in-person open house on this fare proposal that will be happening next Wednesday, November 17th. That'll be at Fisher's Landing Transit Center in the upstairs Besserman Community Room from 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And again, on our website, there's also a way to send us comments anytime. We want to hear from you, as we mentioned, and that's important too. Any policy decision that we make as an agency. So thank you to everyone who joined us for this broadcast and weighing in and sharing your feedback. We will see you next time.